know it's
Yo, I knew it was muted. That's why I wasn't saying anything.
You have to mute me during the thing.
Yo, good day, and welcome to a cold, brisk day in Idaho and another episode of the RoadFS CRM podcast. And that's why I'm wearing my RoadFS cap, because I'm freaking cold.
What is temperature there, Rob, where you're at?
It is in the 30s with 30 to 40 mile an hour winds, so it's cold.
Nice. Oh, that's
it's 27 this morning.
It was 22 when I got up.
22 when we got up, so it's bone chilling.
It's bone chilling. So if you guys don't know that voice, that is our good friend Rob Schruefer, owner of On the Spot Detailing, also former IDA presidente. So how you doing, my brother?
Good. Like I said, it's cold out.
And I don't know if you know this or not, Rob, but you are one of the very first people that we ever met when we got involved in the industry.
That is true.
Yeah, at Mobile Tech.
Yeah. Yep. So that's
I was just talking to Jody about this the other. It was just like me and you guys advocating for software, and people are like, "What are you talking about? You're insane.
Why do you need that stuff?"
That was probably 15 years ago, and they're like,
exactly.
CRM. Nobody had ever heard of a CRM. Like when I was giving presentations, I was talking to blank faces, like they thought I was nuts.
They still think we're nuts, but we mostly are. But.
Well, that's cool. Well, you've been around in the business a long time, 2 decades. 2004, I think, is what you told me is when you started your business. You know, that's a long time to run a successful business. So what are some of the things that you've learned along the way that you wish you'd know now if you were starting over?
I think, when I talk to people about starting the business, I always say, using the money for continued growth is kind of how I got to where I was. Me and another friend of mine, we pretty much started our companies at the same time. He went out and bought a little bass boat and a Corvette and put rims on his van and all this crazy stuff. And he was out of business in 3 years. And during that same time frame, same market, same upbringing, basically same people, I had 3 crews and was running successfully. And he just was blowing money because he got a little bit of money and thought that he should use it rather than reinvesting it in his business.
Yeah. I think that's a really wise thing to look at for people, because I think a lot of times we get into this false sense that we have to run faster than we can, right? We make this much money, but we need to spend this much because that's how you grow. And I think that is a classic example of people fail in business because they grow too fast without outside of their means, basically, right? You can grow as fast as you can grow, but you have to have the means to support it.
What I did was I just waited until I'd get a van. I'd wait till it was booked 2 weeks out consistently. Then that's when I know I would add another van. And that's just how I marched that all the way up to like 10 vans.
Wow. So that is awesome. And you've had the same business for that same amount of time. And I think that is one of those things that people don't, I recognize it because of the challenge in running a business, right? I mean, most businesses fail in the first couple of years, and then the ones that make it the first couple of years fail in the next 5 years. And the likelihood that someone is going to do what you have done is pretty unlikely to have a business that long. So I mean, big pat on the back to you. The other thing is you're also one of the most humble people in the world.
Yes, that is true.
Nobody would look at you and be like, yeah, this guy's had a business for 20 years. He's got 100 employees. I mean, they just don't. But I think that's a key to it as well, is being humble. And I have no doubt that you could step into your shop and do any of your guys' jobs in a day and show them how to do it and still be involved in it.
Yeah, I always tell them if they see me out there buffing a car, like somebody messed up. Somebody's in trouble. It's just not my job anymore. And that's kind of one of the other things that I stress when I try to teach people about the detailing business is at some point you're no longer a detailer. Like my job hasn't been detailer in 10 years. I do it if I have to, And as a leader, I jump in. Like, I don't ask people to do things that I would never do. Get on the roof of an RV, get out there in freezing cold temperatures. If it needs to be done, I'll do it. But that's not my role anymore. My role is to make sure that the business comes in and that everything gets paid and that all the vendors are in line and that everybody else has the jobs to go out and earn a good pay.
Right.
Did you find that transition difficult, moving from detailer to strategic leader and business owner?
Yeah, at first, because you do things your way and you want everybody else to do it your way. You have to let go and realize that as long as the product is right, how you get there, I'll be a little. I have some SOPs I want you to follow, but I'm a little more flexible in how you achieve the end result. As long as the result is what we want.
Right. So you want your customers to be satisfied with the product every time, but whether or not I go in and do it exactly according to your plan is
How you get there, what order you go in, as long as it makes sense,
So let's talk a little bit about the IDA, because I know that you were one of the original champions of the IDA and served as the president for a year.
As president twice. So.
Yeah.
Twice. Oh,
Yeah.
see. So let's talk about that. One, the vision of that, and two, how is it still relevant and important for your business today?
Well, I remember when the IDA, when the first certification test came out, I got the email and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I immediately did it and turned it back in. And then I got a call from Jim Lefebvre like the next day saying, hey, you're the first person to do this. Can you turn it in? I think my certification number is like 5. So, after that, they were like, hey, you obviously are interested in this. Would you like to join the board? And I joined the board. It was probably 2007 or 8 in that range around there. Just kind of, I wasn't part of the first people, but I was in that first group for sure.
Yeah, well, if you got, I'm pretty sure your badge number has a 2-digit number on it.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Yeah. I've done that a couple of times in trainings that we've held and stuff. And I said, look at your badge number, look at the last digits, what's the number there? And I'm always blown away by it because there's always somebody in that audience that has a 2 or a 3-digit number that are still involved.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, it looks like his business is calling his attention.
Yeah, so my number is 5 for certification, and actually I'm 115 for so I am right into the triple digits for
150. Well, I'm like 8 something. I'm like 8, so I'm right behind you there. But I think that is the legacy of that. If you think about that time frame, that's about the time that Jody and I came into it. That's the time that you started pushing CRM. That is the time that the IDA came in. And that is kind of the class of people that we've really kind of watched the industry elevate and grow. And I think it's every once in a while I like to step back and give everybody a pat on the back that's involved in that kind of time frame, because we're still here. We're still pushing for that. We're still advocates for all of those things. And I think that's what's important, is to have that longevity and that legacy of people that are driving to make the industry a better place for everybody.
And it was an uphill battle then. Like, people did not want to hear anything about the IDA or what was going on, what we were doing. They all thought we were nuts. They're like, how is this going to help me? This is so dumb. You guys aren't accomplishing anything. So, there were daily arguments on Facebook about just the validity of it and what it was going to become and how it benefits the detailers themselves. And I think it's come a long way in that fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because we still have those arguments and everything that people have out there. But I think that all you have to do is look outside of this industry and look in any other industry. Every legitimate industry has an organization. And whether it's the greatest organization or not, as far as the other industry, they have an organization. you have to have something to kind of rally around and have standards and guidelines. And I think that's what's important about it. And I've seen people like, oh, I've never had anybody ask me about that at all. And then I've had other people that are like, I've had people walk in and see that certificate on the wall and go, I'm coming with you because you're certified. So
it also just says, even to me, even if all I'm doing is donating $100 a year to the auto detailing industry that supports my family, then that to me is worth it. Like if that's my way of giving back, then okay. The IDA is one of those things you only really get out of it what you put into it. So for networking alone, I think is worth it. I get to meet you guys. I've met so many people at these shows where I never would have met these guys living under my rock where I was prior to joining the IDA, and being able to come out and meet people you see on TV, like Larry Casilla. Like he's a friend of mine. I have his phone number. He's on TV. Like it's very interesting to get to meet these people that you see.
Yeah. And Jody and I are we're really lucky because we get to travel all over the world and meet people. And we just had an IDA event and with a bunch of people in the Netherlands. Jody's been in El Salvador. We've been in Mexico. We've been in Canada twice. From one end of the country to the other, Florida. And that intro that was on today's was PDP in Ohio. Fabulous event.
Smart.
Oh my gosh, PDP puts on a wonderful event there in Ohio every single year. And we get to meet tons of people. I mean, I can't even tell you how many people Jody and I have met. And it's crazy because this industry, I never would have guessed this, but like Jody and I will walk through an airport and literally somebody will be like, hey, it's the RoadFS guys. And I'm like, how in the world does somebody recognize me in an airport with every other bald 50-year-old dude that's in there?
You guys are famous now too.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is, especially as I'm walking in the Latin American circles, there's a lot of respect for the IDA certification, a lot of desire to have that on their wall, and more importantly, to have the knowledge, right? So Juicy Free has a question.
Juice Free. Ask questions. Juice Free.
Go,
baby.
I wonder what that question is.
Ask that question.
So anyway, but I've noticed that I was on a TikTok live last night with a group, and they were all over Brazil, Mexico, Texas, Colorado, and they were all meeting together and trying to go, all right, man, what are you doing to get, what is your goal,
right?
And what are you doing to get there, and what is holding you up? So I have no.
There we go.
Here's a question.
That's a good.
What's the difference between a protectorant,
dressing, and a
conditioner?
Well, it depends on if we're talking interior or exterior Juice Free. But if we are talking about an interior, a protectant is just a layer that is going to stop some stains and some contaminants from being on there. A dressing is, wow.
I think it just makes it shiny. That's how I would describe it. Dressing just makes it shiny.
So we've got the really unique opportunity of being really close with the leather repair company, Richard Hutchins out of the UK. Another guy that's been in this industry for 350 years. A conditioner is something, as far as leather interiors, that goes in and actually softens the material, and it conditions that leather and makes it softer. Leather is a breathable material. It's like your skin. And so if you don't put lotion on your skin, you're all nasty and dried and hard and nasty like me. But if you put conditioner on, like my wife, you have this beautiful, soft, supple skin. Same thing as with the conditioner on your interior. A protectant is literally something that just keeps stains off of it, and it's just a small barrier for that. Same thing with vinyl, plastics.
I think lotion is a good analogy to conditioner. I think
And if you want to get really nerdy about it, go to the Leather Repair Company's website in the UK
Yeah.
or in Canada, wherever you're at there, Juice Free. You can talk to Paolo in Canada or Richard Hutchings or Carolyn Hutchings in the UK, and they can give you such nerdy information.
They'll really nerd out.
And you can go to their website and it'll tell you all that stuff, because there is a lot of difference between a conditioner's and like a cleaner. And you don't want to use a harsh cleaner on a leather interior because it can damage it, can pull the paint off of it and all that. So good question.
So I have a question for you, Rob. You know, you've been in the business, you've grown, and you've had huge numbers of employees. You've strategically contracted. What has been the biggest challenge bringing on employees and keeping them engaged with you where they're invested?
Well, with most employees, they want to be treated like they're important, and like building those relationships with them and listening to them. You can tell me anything. What I may not be able to implement what you think, or do something like that, but I'm always willing to listen. Who knows where your next good idea is going to come from, or next way to save money or cut costs or something like that. People eliminating outside perspectives will never get you anywhere. So any opportunity I have to talk and get more information from my employees, I do. I also try to pay them well, at the top of what is a pay scale. Most people just want job security, and if they're paid in a means that will help them support their family, your turnover is low. We have pretty low turnover here. I try very hard, because from an economic standpoint, the cost of me rehiring, retraining, getting all that out on the road is far more than giving you $1 or $2 more an hour to do a job that I'm training somebody else to do. And you get to know my customers, you get to know my ways. There's a lot that goes into longevity that is you lose every time you turn someone over. So paying someone well and being a good boss basically is the best way to have them stick around.
Yeah. We've actually divided this up. Jody and I've had quite conversations with our employees of the difference between a boss and a leader. And sometimes you have to play both of those roles, right? If there's a conflict, or if there's an absolute impasse, right? This guy and this guy both want the same day off. You have to be a boss. You have to say, these are the policies. This is why we're doing it. But the other side of the coin is a leader. And there's a definite difference between a leader. A leader, to me, is somebody that will jump in and do the job at any time, right? Like you said, hey, the toilet's not working. I'd be up there fixing the toilet, right?
Like you'll come out and I'll be underneath a van fixing something, like rescrewing tanks underneath a van, and people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, somebody had to do it. And, you guys have a job to do. I didn't have anything to do at the moment.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing with a leader. And then I think the key there is that, like you said, you gotta look at what your employees' needs are and what your team members' needs are. We have a history in this company. We were actually voted for like 6 years in a row as one of the best places to work in Idaho. And our average employee has been here over 10 years. And the average went down because we hired a new kid 2 years ago. But
destroying your average.
Yeah, threw the average out the door. But I think the key to that is that, you've got to listen to your employees. You got to pay them well, and you got to be just a regular person. I mean, my wife always says this about the people she works with, that tomorrow this could all go to hell, and we could be digging ditches, and you could be my boss. And I'd want you to treat me the same way that you want me to treat you. So keep that in mind.
I've also been there. I've done that. I've done their job. I did
you know what it's like. That's the key.
I understand the challenges of it. I understand what's good about it and what sucks about it. Being out there when it's 35 degrees and windy, it sucks. I understand that, so we try to keep the day shorter if we can.
Yeah, let's go do some of these other questions.
So Juice Free had some additional comments that I want to get to. So Wow, I can't believe it's
90.
90% of detailers don't know this question. They think they're all the same. You guys were the first people to actually have a comprehensive answer. And then it was followed up with, I like to only use conditioners for all interior plastic and leather. I believe using the other is kind of a waste of ROI. And then finally, Juice Free said, efficiency breeds quality. I'm strictly rinseless. What about you guys?
Yeah,
oh, that's a good.
I mean, on interior stuff, I would say I do like dressings, or what I'll call like I'm just going to throw it out there, like a solution finish, right, on an exterior. Because something like that conditions your plastics, and it's not really a conditioner, it's more of a
It's a
reconditioning, really.
It
It resurrects it back. So exterior plastics get harsh environments, and so I think that you need that. But yes, absolutely, the least chemically invasive product you can use on an interior, the better. I mean, I would agree with that. I love rinseless. So yeah, if you're like Juice Free, if you love the rinseless, I love that, man. If you can get away with doing that. Sometimes on a really dirty car, I will, and Rob's going to slap my hand if this is wrong, but I will spray it down with a rinseless and let it dwell for a minute and let it start to emulsify, and then power wash it off, and then do another rinseless wash with it, strictly just to get the contaminants off before I hit it. But yeah, I love rinseless.
What do you have your guys do, Rob?
We mostly foam cannon, although on days like today when we're pushing freezing temperatures, because it's something that we deal with from pretty much December through February, we go to rinseless because it's all the temperature will accommodate. You can go into the teens doing something like that, whereas otherwise I'd be closed.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, that was one of the things when we were in the Netherlands that they were talking about, shifting away from using a foam cannon and actually really focusing on interior type jobs, because they knew that they could control the environment, they could control the scenario, and really provide a great service to their customers. I mean, Wesley was all about that.
So. Yeah. So one of the things that I learned, this is interesting. This is going to take a total left turn, but our trip to the Netherlands, I got to spend a couple of days in Germany ahead of time. So I spent some days in Stuttgart. I went to the Porsche Museum and Factory, and that was a blast. But the other thing I found out there is I did do some research on detailing because I'm a nerd. So in Germany, you cannot wash your own car on the street or in your house, apartment, whatever. It's illegal. So you have
California.
California.
Well, no, Germany. Take it. There's another comment down there too at some point. You have to take it to a car wash place, and they have these facilities, just like in the United States. It's a car wash, but you can wash your own, and you have to take it in there and do that. So thanks, Juice Free. We appreciate that. Solution Finish is great for exterior, but again, there's a lot of products out there that are good conditioners for interior and leathers, but Leather Repair Company, I mean, top tier. It's like, your top shelf is Leather Repair Company. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, because to me, that would help breed a better environment for detailers, because if I've already got to take my car and I've got to drive somewhere already, I might as well just take it to the detail shop. And to me, it's one of those situations where that would help me do my marketing, whether I'm in California or Germany. It's like, hey, you can't just wash it on the street, bring it to me, or I can come to you with my mat, my extraction hose, and a tank, and fill it up or whatever. Especially in somewhere like California or Florida, where the weather's not going to get below freezing. Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of having that mindset of what can I do in this environment. I can tell you what I'd be doing if I was in Germany, but
Oh man. So I, looking forward, right? It sounds like in our pre-show conversation that you're kind of, you've grown your business. You've really built a strong reputation in your market. And now, in some ways, it sounds like you're contracting a little bit strategically. Talk to
Yeah.
that a little bit, because I think a lot of people view, oh, I'm either plateauing or I'm pulling back, as a negative, but there may be a strategic reason for that, at a certain point in your business.
Yeah, not revenue doesn't always equal profit, as anybody knows. It's always nice to have, a high revenue number. I think the highest we got to was like $6.5 million in a year out of a detailing company, which is a lot for a detailing company. But after COVID and when prices kind of went up on cars, the dealerships just became too much of a pain in my ass. They still want to pay $100, $120 a car that they paid 20 years ago, when my costs have gone up 3, 4, 5 times. My labor costs have doubled. They don't want to hear anything about the fact that it's costing me to do it. So, I mean, at one point we had like 20 dealerships. I've rolled them back. We don't have any now. It's not worth the trouble. During COVID, we went to a cost plus plan where they wanted people, they weren't selling any cars, but they wanted 2 people stationed there from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in case they sold a car. And I said, guys, doesn't make sense. Here's what it cost me. I broke it down for them. Here's what it cost me to have someone there. I want 15% on top of it. I'm not raking you over the coals. I understand you're not making money. We did it for like 2 months and they go, this doesn't make sense for us. We're losing money. We need you to come back and just do it how you were doing it. I'm like, well, so you want me to just lose the money then? Like, yeah, no. You saw what I was doing. You saw how much it costs to have someone there. And you're telling me that it's impossible for you to make money like that. But Rob, you can go do it. You figure it out. And,
yeah. Well,
I got tired of it.
That's that classic passing the buck thing. And I think that is one of the reasons that the industry needs to pull together. Because if you look at other industries like the auto mechanic industry, a lot of the prices now are very, very similar. People don't argue to go to a dealership or a mechanic and pay $100 an hour plus to get mechanical work done. It's just how it's done. There's a standard book in automotive repair that says, wow, that's for you, Joe.
Yeah. Saludos. Saludos.
So it basically says it's going to take you.
Frete.
Yeah, it says that. 2.5 hours to change the clutch on a Volkswagen Beetle, whatever, right? That's how much you're going to pay. You don't get to argue. You don't get to tell me, no, I think you can do it in 15 minutes. It's 2.5 hours. But that's because that industry has come together and it has said, this is the standard for that. And the manufacturers put out that time book. The difference in detailing is the manufacturers don't care. I mean, let's just call it like it is. They don't care. They put the thinnest amount of paint humanly possible on that car. They roll it out the door. They throw it out and go, yeah, well, in 5 years, you're going to buy a new one anyway. So we're not going to change that. We just have to change the way that we market it and the way that we have our industry set up to explain to people that your car doesn't have very much paint on it. It's got a thin coat and you can only do so much.
Yeah, we had that exact conversation this morning. So we're part of this Netherlands Detail Summit group, and they were talking about how a customer came in and wanted to have a ceramic coating and paint correction. Well, when they measured it, it was 50 microns. And they're like, dude, there's not enough room for me to polish this thing. And the customer got upset because he wouldn't even try, right? But I think
try to paint your hood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I respected that. They're like, look, you know what? This is why I can't give you a service. I know you want it, but my job as a professional detailer and a business owner is not only to give you a great product and service, but I also have to protect myself because I don't want to be painting a car, right?
So I did an experiment when we were in the Netherlands. We had a hood, and there's a gentleman there that does paint touch-up repair, and he has a system. But he just sells in Europe. ProSmart, really great system, by the way.
Yeah, really good.
And we had a hood, junkyard hood, typical one, right? Paint gauge. piece of crap. I think it had
It was like
three mils to start
Yeah, it
with,
was
right?
small.
Prior to doing this, he took a key and he gouged this hood. I mean, it was beyond. It was down into the primer. Okay. And then we took his paint touch-up system, and he has a very unique system, and we touched it up, right? And I've done some of this stuff, so I did mine, and then I wet sanded it. Okay. Actually dry sanded it. And I got it down to where the paint gauge was showing yellow. It was about 2.4 mils. And the paint gauge is going, oh, stop right there, stop right there. And I did two things. I wanted to show what the breaking point was. And I wanted to see how thin I could possibly go. And I knew I was going to burn through. So I was using, the first time I did it with 2500, I used 3000 grit sandpaper and I sanded the hood 6 times. 6 times. That's how just my sanding. Yeah, exactly. So I sanded that thing down, and the last time I did it, I was 1 point something, and he's like, "You're going to burn through," and I was like, "Yes, I am." I did not burn through with the sandpaper. The only time I burned through, and the scratch was gone. Scratch was completely gone. But I burned through because I was using a rotary, and the last time I went through it, the last pass, I watched it burn. So I got down to 1 mil. Now, 2 things there. One, I would never do that on a car that was going out the door. ever. My rule with anything like that is you try it 2 times and then you're done. Plus, I never would have went beyond the less than 2 mils. But the interesting part there was that I can do things a little differently. Sometimes I do stuff that's not so conventional, like I can paint. So I probably would have just painted the hood with some clear and then sanded it down, added a little bit of thickness to it. But it came out nice. Right before I burned through, it was beautiful, man. It was stellar before I burned through.
Until you had to buff it.
That's the thing is, I think people do that. Go out and do that and find the limit.
Find the
right.
limit.
We did the same thing in Canada, only this hood was a repaint and had 6.5 mils. And we gave Steve Thompson, which don't ever do this.
Kid.
Don't ever go to 13-year-old a Scotch-Brite and go tell him to scratch a hood, because he went to town. But because it had 6 mils, everybody's like, "Oh, we're never going to get that out." And I'm like, "Oh, we're going to get it out." So I sanded the snot. I didn't even sand it, did I? I think I did. Yeah, I sanded it.
Did.
And then I took a rotary, old school, like we're talking 12-inch, and I hammered on that thing, and it came out. And everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, how did you do that?" And I'm like, "Because there was 6 mils of paint.
Yeah.
I can cut 3 mils off of that thing and be safe." So I think the tools and the knowledge are what's important. And I'm not the best detail in the world. I would never say that. I'm not a great polisher. I can hold my own, but you have to see what your limits are and are able to do that, right? It's like a weightlifter. Weightlifters go out and see exactly how much they can lift, and then they know their limits, and then they try to push it beyond that. Detailers have got to do the same thing. You got to know your limits before you can, go out and do your job. So
when I forgot my first detailing van, I took a rotary to the back pillar because I want to see like how long can I lean on this before it becomes a problem. And then for the next 10 years, I had a burn mark on my back pillar like that. But now I knew, what kind of pressure, what kind of time, what kind of heat caused that kind of problem. And there's only one way to learn how to do it, and that's to do it. And once I knew where that line was, then I was, much better for it.
Yeah. And I think that part of that is it's technique. So sanding to me is an advanced technique. Everybody shouldn't be sanding. But a lot of people I know that on sanding, they put too much pressure because they feel like the sanding comes from your arm and you got to push. Whereas the sanding comes from the paper. Let the tool do the work. The paper is the tool. And that's why I was able to sand that thing 6 times. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, you keep sanding." And I'm like, if you could feel the amount of pressure that's coming on this, there's nothing. I'm barely putting pressure on it. I'm just putting I'm just removing the last sanding marks that I put on there. And so you're going to burn through. If you actually look at the level of 1 mil and you're like, you can sand that twice. Yes. If you don't pound on it, you can. So,
take whole big bar sanding.
oh yeah, this huge sanding block, stand on top of it. But I think that's where people need to go get. That's where I'm a huge advocate for training. That's why Jody and I travel all over the world and go to all these trainings. Richard Hutchings, again, I know I'm patting him on the back because I love the guy, but he has given a lot of people opportunity with the detailing summits, and there's other trainings around the world that you can take, but those detailing summits give everybody a taste of whatever it is you want to see. Is it PPF, sanding, polishing, these wipe-on clear coats,
Yeah, it's good.
paint touch-up, CRM, everything.
And speaking of training, if you are in the East LA area on December 15th, Sunday, the 15th, there is a Spanish speaking training offered by Juan Gonzalez at Fernando's Car Wash Supplies in East LA. I'll put a link to the address and a connection to Juan Gonzalez. It's going to be a great event. There's going to be a bunch of people there. So, come join us. So,
and this dude's going to be there. And
big
Nice
shout out.
that you guys get to do that stuff.
Yeah, to Juice Free, thanks for subscribing. If you could convince
Yes,
about
thank you very
700,000
much.
other people to do that, that would help us keep doing this.
So kind of in wrap up, man, what are one or two key tips that you would give business owners to help them manage the chaos to success?
Well, one of the things that I always say is there's a market out there for whatever you want to be. You want to be a high-end boutique shop that does one car and charges $4,000. There's a market for that. In the detailing industry, we poo-poo and shit on people for doing car washes, but there's a market for that.
Yep.
I make a lot of money in production detailing. There's a lot of money in that. We also have the retail side. So you don't have to think that detailing is one thing. You don't have to you don't have to be an Instagram detailer and showing, this Ferrari that you spent 10 hours buffing and they paid you $600 and you're like, what am I even doing here type of thing. There's a lot of opportunity. You just have to find out what kind of detailer you want to be and serve that market, whether it's, daily driver minivans or Ferraris, whatever it is. You have to know what you have going on in your market and provide the customer with the service that they're asking for. It doesn't really matter what you want, as far as famous and being, showing people pictures and saying you've done this and making detailed videos like that. That's great and all for the ego, but it doesn't really have anything to do with business at all. There's a few people that make money at it, but most 95% of the detailers in the world, probably even less, that's not what they do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a real key is figure out what your market is and do that. Because everybody, I'm going to use the Parker brothers in Arizona. They have a fabulous business, right? They're in Scottsdale, Arizona. They do high-end cars. They have people trailer in cars from all over to have them work on their cars. That's their market. That's who they are. But that's their market. If everybody's trying to be those guys, you can't. You can't be those guys in, like, for instance, Boise, Idaho. It's 27 degrees. There's no Ferraris on the road today. I'm sorry.
There's not very many Ferraris
There's not very many Ferraris anywhere, right? You see a Lambo, people are chasing it down going, oh, my God,
I
it's
need
a
a
Lambo.
picture.
So you can't be every market. And I think I was actually having a conversation yesterday with a guy out of Maine, and we were talking about that. It's kind of a disservice for people to tell everybody you should be making $1 million a year. What if your market's not $1 million a year? What if you're happy as a pig in shit at $65,000 a year? Then that's what you should do. You should be that happy pig. Take your market and do what you can with it. And I really do. I really do have a lot of respect for you because of just your personality,
Yes.
how successful you've been, and how humble you are. And I think that people need to take a lesson from that. It's just, at the end of the day, we're all just humans trying to do what we're trying to do, make a living, feed our families. To me, we have a responsibility to take care of our employees, to take care of our community, to take care of our neighbors, our friends, everything. And that's what we need to do. And because the detailing industry has allowed us to do that, we need to give back. And that's one of the reasons. Everybody asks Jody and I, why do you guys go all over and do all these events? Because we feel like that's how we can give back. We can help promote these events. We can help do podcasts and show somebody in the Netherlands that's a small detail shop, and tomorrow they got 15 new followers. And that's what's important, is helping everybody raise up so that we can all eat from the table.
Yeah, the industry comes up. Like I said, but people are tough on these. They used to call them bucket brigade guys, but everybody starts somewhere. Like show them what they should be charging. Explain to them why they're not charging enough, and here's what you need to be doing to raise that up, and then we can all make more money.
Yeah.
The problem that we have as an industry is we're not taken seriously all the time because we act like a bunch of assholes online sometimes. We're petty and we fight, and we look like children to the outside consumer, and we'll never be taken seriously if we look like little kids.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, dude, I have totally enjoyed this conversation. Guys, if you don't know Rob, go out, get connected with him on Facebook, Instagram. He is a phenomenal resource. I mean, if you have ideas or questions, I know he's always willing to help. And I just love what you do for the industry. I mean, you are truly a pillar in the industry. And like Rod said, you're so humble about it. But you also you've built the blueprint that is desired. And yes, there is one last comment. Let's see what it says. Leather repair company. People are racing to the bottom and not to the top. So, it's easy to get caught in that trap. So thank you so much, brother, for tapping in. Are you guys
going to be at Mobile Tech?
Yes,
Absolutely.
we will be. In fact, we will.
That's one of my favorite shows. If the listeners have never gone, it's small enough that you get to spend time with everybody. You go to dinner with them, you have drinks with them, you actually get to hang out with them. It's not like SEMA where there's a million people there and it's in Vegas. And I've been to SEMA and my friends have been there, and I've never even seen them. We just are never able to meet up. But at Mobile Tech, everybody's together. There's time. You can talk. You can sit down. You can have lunch. It's one of my favorite shows, and I really enjoy being there.
Are you doing a training this year?
No, I stopped doing the trainings a while ago just to give other voices.
Yeah.
When Mobile Tech was hurting for speakers and they were like, hey, we need somebody to do it, I would always volunteer because, I was willing to do it. But when it got to the point that I had done it like 10 years in a row, I'm like, you need to hear from somebody else. Like I can give you topics and I can talk about it, but you don't want to hear from the same person all the time. You need to hear other perspectives so that you can take a little bit from here and a little bit from there and use it how you see fit. Because what works for me doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah, we took a couple years off. We're actually going to do one this year. So it's going to be fun. So we will definitely see you at Mobile Tech Expo, man. So.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All of you guys, thank you so much for tuning in every week. We will have another amazing guest next week, and we will.
And then we'll be wrapping up for the year.
Oh,
we got a big
we
wrap
have two
up.
more. We have two more episodes before then.
We'll be wrapping up.
I don't think we're going to do one Christmas week. So
we are not going to do one Christmas week. I can tell you right now. So.